Okay, so hi guys, this is MissLollypop and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you have already been here before. So in today's video, we're actually going to be doing my Sims 4 Discover University story overview. So in this video, what we're going to do is cover all of the main characters who are actually going to be in the series, so you guys can get introduced to them, get to know them a little bit, get to know their traits, just the type of people that they are, because these are all new characters and they're not from any other series that I've had on my channel. So I'm really excited to get you guys introduced to everybody, and I'm really hoping that you guys are going to like them. So in order to do today's video, what I'm going to do is sort of do like a little movie slash slideshow. So what I'm going to do is guide you through the story and talk about it, and basically show you as we go through and develop, and using screenshots that have happened during the life. So gradually, as I'm explaining things, I will put in relevant screenshots that have happened during their lives, so you guys will get introduced to everybody, and then that way you kind of know everybody and recognize everybody's names. I think it's easier to match up a person's name when you can actually see them and look at them and you kind of understand them, and not just looking in Creator Sim. I thought it would be a good way to get you guys introduced to everybody so you can kind of understand the story. And obviously there will be no gameplay of Discover University in this video, but I will go ahead and attach in the little eye in the top right hand corner part 1 of my Discover University LP, because obviously this isn't really count as part 1, this is just like a story overview. It's not actually part 1. So I like to split everything up, keep it all planned. So part 1 will actually be when we start off and we actually head off to university with our main characters. But go ahead and stick around if you're interested in finding out the story behind the Let's Play. Obviously I'll go ahead and guide you guys through it as we get into the game, and you'll understand all the main characters. I really want a developed story for this series. I've had it with a few other series that I've been doing, and they all seem to go really well. I really like making a story for my Sims and having them follow it, and I like just developing stories and sort of making up almost like a TV show in the Sims game instead, because I feel like there's a lot of development that you can do in the Sims. So if you guys don't want to go ahead and sit through a 20-minute video of me rambling on about all of my Sims and be really impressed with them, you can just go ahead and head to the description, and in there I've got a summarized overview of the whole entire video and what I've said, and all the different Sims. It will just be a little bit more difficult for you when we actually get into game, just understanding who I'm talking about when I mention a name. I think it's easier if I go ahead and explain it and you guys are watching the video at the same time. So I hope you guys get as invested in this series as I already am, and I haven't even sent them off to university yet. So honestly, I'm really looking forward to this series. So I'm gonna go ahead and record part 1, and I'll go ahead and let you guys watch the rest of this video. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so I think we'll start off with our main first character. This is Khloe Maclean. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you about her story and sort of, her family and how she came about and what sort of person she is. And then we'll move on to our second main character, who is Candice Roberts, Dylan McClain, and also Tamara McClain. So these guys were married, obviously they had a very happy marriage to start off with, and eventually they ended up having their child Khloe together, and she was a really happy and bubbly child. She was, she was really energetic, she loved sports, she loved taking part in loads of different things, she got on really well with loads of different people, she was really popular in school, and yeah, I mean, she was having a really good life, but Tamara was very unhappy with money. They lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and Dylan spent a lot of his time working. Tamara was working, but she didn't work anywhere near as many hours as Dylan, and Dylan was out of the house quite a lot, so she, 1, felt quite lonely, and 2, she really wasn't happy in terms of the money situation. She is a bit of a snob and she's a bit materialistic, so she does like the finer things in life, and she certainly was not getting the finer things in life. She was just living a basic life in her apartment, with her only child, and she certainly wasn't happy about it. So Tamara actually began seeing a guy after work and during work, because he was actually her boss, and his name is Nelson Roberts. So Nelson Roberts was very lonely as well, and he was also very, very rich. He was already like level 8 of his banking career, so he was doing really well. He was all into stocks. He had a lot of money in the bank, you know, he had deep pockets. And Tamara knew exactly that, considering she was actually his PA, so she was, you know, a personal assistant for Nelson. She saw all of his bank records, she saw absolutely everything. Tamara did know that Nelson's wife, Janice, actually died during childbirth and leaving his daughter, Candice, who he had to sort of raise by himself, which Nelson wasn't exactly going to be a very good single dad, and actually ended up employing a nanny, and Candice spent most of her time growing up with a nanny, and she didn't really see her dad that much. She really would have loved to spend a lot of time with her dad, because honestly, her and her dad have got quite a few things in common. He's really, really smart, and Candice is honestly such a brainiac. She is ridiculously smart, but unfortunately her dad was really suffering with the loss of his wife, and decided to, instead of, you know, taking that time to sort of develop a relationship with his daughter, who's probably the closest person to him, he ended up not resenting Candice, but he really struggled to look at Candice, because every time he looked at Candice, all he saw was Janice, his wife, who died, and he was absolutely heartbroken. His wife was his soulmate, you know, and he loved doing everything with her. So yeah, Candice ended up growing by herself. She was quite a lonely child. And yeah, she did struggle quite a lot by herself. She ended up spending a lot of her time reading, doing a lot of homework as she was growing up, because of the fact that she didn't really have anything else to do. You know, she didn't have a brother or sister, and she generally didn't get on with a lot of, you know, kids in school, especially considering she didn't have a mum. A lot of the things she couldn't do, like, you know, she couldn't go to parties with her friend because her dad was always working, and, you know, eventually the nanny stopped coming, and, you know, he left Candice by herself to sort of fend for herself at home. And Candice has to basically do everything for herself. So she matured really quickly, but she is very naive to the world, because she hasn't gone out and sort of lived it. She has sort of been a bit of a shut-in. But yeah, either way, heading back to Tamara, who obviously wasn't happy with her marriage, she ended up actually getting caught at work. She was sleeping with Nelson. They actually got caught sleeping together. And she was fired, because obviously you're not allowed to have interrelations with your boss in work. So she ended up getting fired, and her husband was told about all of this. And he actually tried to work it out with her. He said, you know, I get that you're not happy. I'm going to stop working as many hours at work. And Tamara actually came straight out and said, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this. And she went ahead and actually divorced Dylan. Straight up there, she came home on that day and she said, we're getting a divorce, even after Dylan said, you know, we're going to try and work this out. I'm very upset, and I'm heartbroken that you would do this, and I feel quite betrayed, but I think that we can work the trust back. And Tamara said no. Kind of tells you what sort of person Tamara is, doesn't it? She ended up falling pregnant with Nelson's baby pretty early on, and ended up moving straight in with Nelson. So she moved into the family home with Nelson and Candice, and she also went ahead and took Khloe with her as well. But obviously Tamara and Nelson were kind of living their young life, considering Nelson hadn't been in a relationship for at least, well, it must have been about 10, 12 years that he hadn't been in a relationship for, because Candice was a child when Khloe and Tamara moved in. So he hadn't been in a relationship for very long, and obviously Tamara had been really lonely and really bored, honestly, in her marriage for a really long time. So they kind of, did everything by themselves. They kind of lived their lives almost like they were young adults again, and they, done everything that they wanted to and were always out, which left Candice and Khloe in all the time. Which Khloe isn't the sort of person who would just sit in and do nothing. So she would end up going out with her friends, she'd get up to mischief as a kid. She'd basically go and do whatever she wanted to do. She spent a lot of time with friends socialising as a child, whereas Candice obviously was a bit of a shut-in and stayed in. So in terms of their personalities, Candice and Khloe are complete opposites. Candice is super, super smart. She is a bit of an introvert. She struggles to talk to people. She's you know, she's never had any friends her whole entire life and spent most of her time with adults. Whereas Khloe, on the other hand, she is not so smart. It's not necessarily that she's not so smart, it's that she hasn't put the effort into working to develop her skills and develop her, you know, her schooling and stuff. She didn't really care about all of that. She more cared about, you know, having boyfriends and, you know, having loads of friends and impressing her friends. So she was a bit of the class clown. You know, she'd try and impress all of her friends and end up getting kicked out of class. So she spent a lot of time in and out of class, either being sent home on suspension, which obviously Tamara was going out and living her life with Nelson. She never ended up getting in much trouble. Every single time she gets suspended, it was a case of she wouldn't really get in much trouble. So she'd just keep doing it over and over. And in the end, she ended up struggling in school quite a lot. So obviously Candice and Khloe ended up clashing a lot. Khloe hated the fact that Candice didn't mind being by herself. She didn't mind being lonely. And the fact that her dad would come in and sort of give her a kiss on the head, and Tamara would come in and she'd say hello. You know, and she'd sort of follow Nelson around. And Nelson was a really, really caring dad, although he did spend a lot of his time at work. He'd always make sure he came home and give Candice a kiss on the head and always say hello to her and ask her about her school day. And, you know, although she didn't go out, she did have a really good relationship with her dad. And Khloe absolutely resented Candice for that reason. She hated the fact that her dad could come in and kiss her on the head, because obviously Khloe basically got removed from the situation. Khloe loved her dad, Dylan, but she got moved out of the family home. She got stuck with Tamara and Nelson and Candice, and she got moved away from her dad, and she hardly ever saw her dad as a child and growing up. So she never got any of that relationship with her dad, and she hated that. She also hated the fact that Tamara would basically follow Nelson around like a little puppy dog, you know, asking for stuff, going out, going on holidays, all of that sort of stuff. And obviously Tamara would be super, super nice to Candice because she's trying to make a really good impression on Nelson. She was never going to try and ruin anything with that because of the fact that Nelson was her piggy bank. Nelson was giving her absolutely everything she could ever want. She ended up getting Botox. She ended up getting a facelift. She ended up getting, you know, fillers. She ended up getting every single plastic surgery she had ever wanted to make herself feel more confident because he had bucket loads of money, basically. Which meant that Khloe absolutely hated Candice. Candice, on the other hand, actually really liked Khloe. Candice really related with Khloe because of the fact that both of them have lost one of their parents. Candice hadn't had a mum for her whole entire life, but Candice was really enjoying the fact that she would have a sister and she would have somebody to, you know, to talk to and, you know, somebody that she could actually make friends with. And Khloe wasn't interested in any of that. Khloe just wanted to go and do her own thing and be with her own friends. And continue hating Candice. And unfortunately, Candice was really upset by that. And she was always trying to be nice to Khloe. And Khloe was just pushing her further and further away. And in the end, Khloe ended up resenting Candice. And there was nothing Candice could do. And Candice sort of just had to put up and shut up and get on with it, even though she really tried her hardest to make friends with Khloe. So Nelson actually ended up disliking Khloe quite a bit because of the fact that obviously she got suspended from school quite a lot. Tamara was very busy with Nelson and they were always going out, as I said, like going on holidays and things like that. So they didn't really take much care of Khloe when she was younger. But because of the fact that Candice had just got on with it, she'd gone and studied, she was doing really well in school, she'd always come out with A's, she'd always ace every single test. And Khloe, on the other hand, was failing. She was coming out of tests with F's and U's because she was hardly even in school. Nelson ended up really disliking Khloe. And as soon as Khloe got out of high school, which I can also say that she came out with a D. So she barely scraped a pass. She barely scraped it. But she ended up coming out and he demanded that she get a part-time job and she earned her own wage and she paid rent to Nelson, which was completely fine. However, Khloe didn't want to go get a job. Khloe wanted to sit at home and, you know, do the same thing that her mum got away with, which was just sitting at home, having everything being paid out for her. And unfortunately, Nelson was not going to put up with Khloe's, you know, ways. And he forced her to go out and go get a part-time job, which she actually did. And she does work at the mall round the corner from the family home. And she was working part-time there. You know, she'd work in the mornings, normally from about 8 till 1 p.m. She was doing it for about a year or 2 years. Obviously, Khloe is actually 2 years older than Candice. So Khloe is 20 and Candice has just turned 18. Candice ends up finishing school, obviously 2 years later than Khloe, and she ends up finishing with A's, and she wants to go straight to university, which obviously her dad has already said he'll pay for all the expenses, and he'll also be sending money to her every single month to cover any sort of fees that she has, any sort of food she needs to buy, if she needs to renovate her dorm or anything like that. He will pay for everything for her. So everything is, you know, fully laid out. It's like a golden path for Candice, and she just gets to walk down it like a little red carpet. And Khloe obviously resents that even more in Candice. She hates the fact that she is doing so well in school and has been so successful and everything is being paid for her, and she doesn't get any of that. Khloe ends up getting fired for sleeping with a co-worker in the back of the mall. So her manager comes out, there's nobody on the shop floor, she's wondering why. She comes out and she actually sees that Khloe is sleeping with one of the guys that she was working with, and she ends up being fired, obviously. So she gets sent home, and she gets sent home from work early. You know, Tamara and Nelson end up asking why she's, you know, home from work so early, and she said, you know, I got fired. And they said, well, that's not really acceptable. What are you going to be doing? And Khloe said, I'm actually going to go to university. And Nelson goes and says, I hope you don't think I'm paying for that. If you're going to university, you're going to pay your own way. I'm not paying for any of that. You couldn't even manage to come out of school with a pass, which would be a C. So, and Nelson wasn't going to pay for any of Khloe's tuition, none of her dorm. She was not going to get anything paid for, and she was going to have to use whatever money she saved up from her part-time job to put towards her tuition money, which most of it was going to have to go towards a student loan anyways. Bringing ourselves to the present day, Candice and Khloe want to head on off to university. Khloe, on the other hand, wants to be as far away from Candice as possible. She wants to be in the furthest dorm room away, and if she can, be in the furthest university. So Khloe ends up applying first as soon as she comes out, because Nelson said that he would kick her out if he didn't see that she actually got accepted into a university. So Khloe needs to go and find herself a university that she wants to go to quickly. Now Candice, in her own sort of way, wants to use this time to maybe develop her relationship with Khloe a little bit more. Maybe being away from their parents will help Candice, one, come out of her shell, and two, be able to sort of connect with Khloe a little bit more. Whereas Khloe doesn't want to be anywhere near Candice. She wants to be as far away from her as possible. But that's not Candice's intention, and Candice actually intends to follow Khloe to whatever university she's going to be going to, and trying to sort of, you know, work on her relationship with her, because to be honest, she's the only person who has ever acknowledged Candice. And I know that seems really sad, but the thing is even if it was in a really, really horrible way, and even if she did make fun of her whole entire life, the fact was, Khloe put more attention into taunting Candice than Candice got in her whole entire life from any of her family. She was, as I said, left completely by herself, and for that reason, she really, really, really wants to be friends with Khloe. You know, that's her half-sister, and she really wants to make it work with her. But that is where we're going to be leaving it off for the LP, which will be starting tomorrow, the first episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed that story, and I hope everything made sense. I'm going to go ahead and type it up in the description, so if none of it made sense, or you didn't want to watch the whole entire thing, or you just skipped to the end, go ahead and just look in the description. You can always read the story instead of listening to me say it, because I know it can take a little while for me to explain the story, but I hope it was interesting with all the screenshots, so you guys got a chance to see everybody and meet all the characters. And obviously in the first episode we will be taking Candice and Khloe off to university. They'll be picking their degrees, they'll be picking what they want to do, how long they want to do it for, and we can go over all of that in the first episode. But I'm really, really excited for these guys. I'm really excited to use them and, you know, play with them. And I just think it's going to be a really fun LP. And I've been looking forward to this for like years. I've been waiting for Discover University for so long. I'm really excited for you guys to join me on my university experience in The Sims 4. So if you guys enjoyed this video, remember to go ahead and leave a like. And if you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section below and I'll get around to them as soon as I can. And if you are new, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe, because obviously it helps our little family grow. And if you just want to hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button, you get notified every single time I upload, which means you never miss one of my uploads. And I'm gonna go ahead and leave the video off here. And obviously if you guys want to go ahead and watch part 1, I will go ahead and link it as soon as part 1 comes up in the top right hand corner in the eye. So you can go ahead and click on that right now and be linked straight to the next episode. I'm going to be uploading, I'd say, 5 parts over this weekend. So the intention is, including Saturday to Sunday, I want to get at least 5 parts of the University LP up. But we will see how far I manage to get into it and how much I manage to pre-record. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end it off here with you guys. And as always, I love you all and I'll speak to you in the next episode. Bye guys!